When I sit and actually look at what God has done, not only in my life, but in the lives of so many, it's so beautiful to me. What started out as a single idea has turned into life-changing moments. When you take yourself out of the equation of trying to figure it all out and allow God to step in and do His work through you, you are capable of so much more than you give yourself credit for. To be here today celebrating these amazing comeback queens, and to know that they have accomplished something that maybe just a year ago wasn't even a thought in their mind. Congratulations, Denise, Julie, Rosanna, Jessica, Brittany, Dawn, Melinda, Tish. Let's celebrate. Woohoo! Welcome, welcome. We are here to celebrate something that is so exciting for so many reasons to so many people. We are here to congratulate the new authors of this amazing book series, Surrender to Rise. So number one, let's get some things in order. If you are there, drop a comment. We are streaming across multiple platforms, so just say hi. And if you have a moment, stop and share this. Share this out, because we are going to be inspired. We are going to be filled with courage. We are going to be reminded that through God, yes, we can. And there's nothing better than just pouring out the love and the grace and the gifts that God gives us. So real quick, I am Elena Rodriguez. I am the CEO and founder of Show Your Crown. I am just merely the person that brought the idea to life. And we are here tonight to celebrate those that actually said yes when I contacted them and said, hey, I have this crazy idea. Want to hear about it? Are you in? And now here we are a year later. And so we've got people on here. Let's say hello. I'm going to bring on Jessica, and we've got Julie, and we've got Tish, and we've got Dawn, and we've got everyone here. Let's get us lined up. There we go. Hello, ladies. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Oh,
Who's
good.
celebrating? Who's celebrating?
Yay.
Yay. Oops, I want to turn that off. I'm trying to manage everything, so bear with me if we see things happening that like shouldn't be there. There we go. Let's hide that one. There it is. All right. So first of all, published authors. And for those that really have no idea the magnitude of reach that we are talking here, the potential of reach that we are talking here, we are picked up by the number one Christian book publisher in North America, Zulon Press. So, ladies, how are you feeling?
Overwhelmed and excited.
Like how Selena says it, me siento muy excited.
I love it. Okay, so let me just start asking you all some questions. All right, Dawn, tell people where are you from? Because we're from all over the place. Where are you from? And just give us a little bit of background on yourself.
I'm from here, from San Antonio, Texas. San Antonio, Texas. Born in the West Side, raised primarily in the West Side. I got a lot of my inspiration and all of my experiences, and I mean everything has been here, based in San Antonio, and I love it. I've talked about moving out maybe to like New York one time, but it's so expensive out there. So I'm very content and happy living here with my family because I mean San Antonio is growing so much. So
Love
it's
it.
pretty awesome.
It's home. And so you speak of New York, and so I'm going to jump to Julie.
New York. Rochester, New York, so upstate New York, between Buffalo and Syracuse on the New York State Thruway, about 6 hours from New York City. Everyone always, when you say New York, they assume that you live in the city. Not everybody does. So I live in kind of more of a rural suburban area of New York, but it's really beautiful. We have the Finger Lakes region and Lake Ontario to our north, and it's a great place to live and raise your children. And it's been my home for my entire life.
Love, 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 love it. And so, real quick, I'm from Indiana, and so I'm going to bring on my fellow Hoosier, Miss Jessica.
Yes, and I love New York, but I was born and raised in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I have left so many times, but home always called me back, and so I kind of set up shop since I became a mom, and most of my experiences are now just grounded here in Fort Wayne.
Love it, love it. And I'm here in Fort Wayne too. So, and we'll move on to our other Texan, Miss Tish Ross.
Yeah, so I live in sort of South Fort Worth in a really small town, but have been a Texan born and raised here, and love Texas. Summer's a bit warm, but other than that, Texas is my home, and I love it here. So
And I think I love it there too because I'm constantly always doing events in Texas. So let's talk about Surrender to Rise. All right, real quick. My background is I'm a two-time best-selling author, and God started talking to me and said, "You're going to do a third book." And at first I thought, is it The Christmas Widow? I became widowed on Christmas Eve. Is it Dear Future Husband? I had done so many writings to my Dear Future Husband. So I really didn't know what it was or what I was to do with it, but I just knew God was saying, there's another book in your future. And as I prayed on it and prayed on it, and I kept thinking of my comeback story, people always wanted to know, how did you make your comeback? How did you keep pushing when things kept crumbling down upon you? And I thought, I'm not the only one that's gone through this. And then it was like God just spoke to me. And so here we are, the first in a series, because Surrender to Rise is here to stay. And you all are the actual first published authors in the series. So what drew you to wanting to say yes when I call you up and say, hey, God laid you on my heart. I don't know what I'm doing here, but are you doing it with me? And Julie, I'll go with you first on that one.
yeah, Elena, I know you and I had a bunch of conversations about collaborations for as soon as we met, pretty much. I felt like it was very organic. We really clicked. And I felt like we were both on this path of uncovering what was next, right? And when you called me and you said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, it's an opportunity to kind of share our stories collectively as a group. Would you be open to this? And I was like, you know it. I was really fired up, excited to collab with you and with these other amazing women that we have here. And I just kind of I felt that pull on my heart as well. And I felt like it was divinely guided. And I'm like, yes, I'm meant to really share this story. And so I really felt inspired to step to the plate and kind of share my story of my big pivot, if you will, in life.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that. And we were, we've only known each other for about 2 years now. And so Tish, you and I go back a little further. In fact, you and I go back probably the longest in this group of authors. And so what did you think when I contacted you and said, God laid you on my heart?
I was taken aback a little bit, and for more, I get more reasons than one, right? So, number one, you never think that someone is going to call and ask you to be a part of something this big, and
in my mind, ever since had started in audio and partnered with you and partnered with God to share and to start an audio podcast, and I kept saying, no, I don't want to, or not me. The Lord just kept saying, yes, you. And a part of that years ago, even prior to this invitation, the Lord had even placed, write a book, tell your story. And so those things, whenever you called, all of that in slow motion, but very quickly, was running through my head. And so, of course, the answer was yes. Oh my goodness, feeling honored, and knowing that God has always told me that you have to tell others about me. I didn't get you through this just for you. And I need you to go and tell everyone what I've gotten you through. I need you to share your story because people need to hear about me and who I am. And so, yes, it was a yes.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And so, Dawn, I'm going to jump over to you because you were probably the main one that was like, what? Who is this?
Well, I think because of circumstances, right? I mean, how we met and how it just all happened. And it was not expected at all. Like we've mentioned before, we were at a funeral or at a wake, right? And it was not something that I was looking for. But I can honestly say, as soon as like you presented it to me and we talked about the circumstances and what the book was and what it meant, like I knew right away, like, oh God, Dawn, this is for you. Like you have to do this. You have to. If you don't, you're going to regret it so badly because you have been asking for this. It's like, you're praying and praying and praying for something. And people, there was an old story where it was like somebody was asking for help from God. And he sent them a plane. He sent them a boat. He sent them, all kinds of other means. And he was rejecting them all. And he's like, no. God's got me. And the end, he was just like, well, what the hell, God? Like you were supposed to. And he was like, fool, I sent you a boat, I sent you a plane, I sent you all these things. So that I felt like this was my calling, because it was just like, this is God answering all the things I was asking. And I would be foolish not to participate and to indulge and take that leap of faith, because I mean, really, it is scary when you think about it, to put yourself out there. Can you still hear me?
Yep. We heard you. Yeah, it's awesome. And yes, we did meet.
Can you still hear me?
Yes. Yeah, we did meet at a funeral, a wake of my cousin. My cousin that was the closest, he's going to always be present anytime that I think Dawn and I are in the same space, because my cousin Adrian, we were just months apart, and he passed at 49 years old suddenly. And I met Dawn in Texas at his wake, and I was just God just leads me to certain people like a magnet, and I could see something in her. I didn't know what, and I really had no idea that this project was in front of me. And so to just know that here we are now, it's like so beautiful, so beautiful. So, and Jessica, the crazy thing is, for you and I, until we started having a conversation, like after the fact about something different, our dads knew each other, and I didn't even know that either. So, how did you feel when I call you up and say, "Hey, girl, I'm looking to do this. You want to be in?"
Yeah, I was, of course, terrified and excited at the same time, just because I always wanted to write. It was something that was in me, and I knew I had a lot to share, but I didn't know exactly how it was going to come to be. And I think just having that conversation with you, and to say, just think about it, it became one of the most cathartic experiences of my life, just because we had to take so much time to really think about what we wanted to put on paper, and what it is that we wanted to share. And I think, because my background has been in education. So I've always, told my former students, I've always told my students, embrace who you are, embrace your passion, the things that you are passionate about. And don't let anybody, tell you who to be or what to be or what to do. And I think that has been the motivational factor for me to go all in and to actually get it down on paper and express myself in that way to, send that message in a much bigger way. And to, just embrace who you are and how you evolve and understand that your path has no intention of ever being linear. I think it just became one of the most exciting and terrifying things, just to get it out on paper.
I love that. Exciting and terrifying. So before we get into the actual book, okay, we are talking about Surrender to Rise. This can be found at showyourcrown.com. If you click on the author's picture, you can place your order and support your author. But I want to read something that's in the very beginning, the very intro of the book. And it says, she continues to give to others when she's got nothing left for herself. She hustles and grinds and does it afraid, while the rest of the world silently sleeps. She knows pure strength comes from complete surrender, and so rejoices in the fall. She loses count of the silent tears wiped away and continues to share her smile. She beams of magnificence from a heart of pure gold, and yet moves fiercely with the spirit of fire. She cannot be stopped. She will not quit. She rises higher with each defeat. She is a comeback queen. She is me. And that piece right there just gets me choked up, because I wrote that actually at a very, very time in my life when I was just exhausted. And I know I'm not the only one, right? And everyone has a story to contribute. So when God told me about surrender, I actually put a framework around surrender. And so, and there's nothing more perfect than having the exact number of people, the exact titles of in their chapters that laid out with this framework of surrender that I had in mind. Like, this all came together beautifully. And so now we're going to pick apart some of the chapters, because some of the authors aren't here with us tonight. And so we'll bring them on and celebrate them another time. But we are going to talk about, in the framework of surrender, Julie, you are actually the you in unconditional love. Okay, these are all the components that must come together to truly surrender to what God has going on in your life. All right. And so, unconditional love, your chapter is It's Never Too Late.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about it.
Yeah. So I was at a really difficult crossroads in my life, where things were just kind of falling apart to come together, I think is the best way for me to describe it. I had just recently been divorced and was going to get on a plane to, actually, you guys, fly to Texas. So was coming, I was an independent consultant, had a very, 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 very successful career. That job and that situation had worked when I was married, but at the time that this was happening, it no longer fit. It just wasn't working anymore. It was actually my son's 7th birthday, and I was having to fly to Texas. My dad got out of the car, handed me my bag, and just looked at me, and he said, "My friend, I think it's time for a change. You know, your career and your life, they're not fitting together any longer. And look at me, Julie. I started an entire company. I retired from what I was doing, and at age 50 started a whole company, whole consulting companies. Like, you're vastly talented. You could do anything you wanted to. You're not stuck." That was something that I needed to hear at that time, Elena, because I had in my mind really believed that the only way that I could make the kind of money to take care of myself and my child was to get on planes and travel, because that's what I knew.
Mm-hmm. And I want to just talk about how many people actually have felt like they are stuck, right? If you're listening, do you feel stuck? Have you ever felt stuck? And to be in that moment, Julie, when it's like you're looking at your options, and you feel stuck. I
Yeah.
don't feel like I have any. So you are not alone in that either.
I mean, Rochester is a small town, right? I was flying to major cities. I was going to Dallas. I was going to Houston. I actually was going to San Antonio. Ironically, you guys, Dawn, that you're on the call with me today, on that day to run a large workshop for business owners. And the words that my dad said to me rang in my ears all the way to Texas and all the way back. I happened to get lucky enough, Elena, to run into my childhood best friend as soon as I got back. Hadn't seen her in 10 years. We went to the park that day, like 2 days later with our kids. Our kids were playing. She looked amazing. I was so excited to see her. And she just looked at me and said, I prayed to God that I would run into you. And I think that's the sweetest thing anybody's ever said to me. And she said, I need your help right now. She's like, I'm in a very difficult spot. And I just stopped because everything looked great from the outside. She looked like her life was just fabulous. And she said, Julie, I have an aggressive form of cancer and it's very serious. And I just said, tell me more. Tell me more. She did. We spoke for about 2.5 hours. And she said, you were always that go-to person in high school and even that person in college that people will come to because you're really good at solving problems. And I really need your support and your help. And in that moment, I just decided we were going to fight. We were going to fight together, and we were going to do everything we could to save her life.
Wow. Now, and in that, I don't believe anything is by accident either, right?
Yeah.
Like you were meant to cross paths that day and to be there for her forward, and also for the lessons that she was going to be teaching you throughout that process.
Yeah. I tell you, that unconditional love really kind of rings true through this story because my friend loved me at the highest level, and it was truly a gift from her and from God to me to be with her in the last 1.5 years of her life. Unfortunately, she didn't make it, and it was incredibly hard. But she inspired me, Elena, and she pushed me and she motivated me and she encouraged me. And she said, you can help other people in a very unique way, make very good decisions about their life choices. And instead of, working for these big companies, she's like, let's be honest, this big company that you work for, they'll replace you within a day. But think about the impact in the life and what you can do and inspire and the impact you can have in the lives of others. If you can just kind of step out of your own fear and embrace the fact that maybe you are meant to run a business. Maybe you are meant to help people with their finances. Maybe you really are meant to help people make good decisions. Mm-hmm. She's like, you've helped me tremendously. Why not help others? And it was not lost on me. And I just, from that moment on, I devised a plan, and it took me some time to get the courage. I'm going to be honest with you. It's when you're a single parent and everything is riding on you. I mean, I had a home at the time. I had 2 vehicles. In my situation, there was no child support, and I just knew that it was all on me. And any decision that I made could impact not only me, but my young child. So it seemed like a very big decision to me. So I quietly worked to get credentialed. I worked at night and started my company at night part-time. And I saved enough money for 2 years of cash reserves. And then I started the company. And I think with that sacrifice and with that unconditional love that my father and my friend had for me, to see something in me and encourage me is really why I'm here with you today.
I love that. I love that. And so for your readers, for them to pick up this book, to support you in your chapter, what is one message that you want to leave them today?
It's never too late. It literally is never too late. I was 45 years old when I started my company, and that's daunting. You even saying the number out loud, I'm like, holy mackerel, I can't believe I did this. I started a whole company at 45. Well, just last year I started a whole nother company. So now I have 2 companies. So now it's not such a big deal, but I think we get stuck in this paradigm and we tell ourselves, the opportunities have passed me by. It's too late for me. No, That's some BS we tell ourselves. It's never too late. It is never too late. If that little seed of a thought has been laid on your heart, it's been laid there for a reason, and it's never too late to go for it. And I would encourage anybody who's got that little kernel on your heart to water that, cultivate that, let that grow. That's there because it's been divinely set there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. I love that. It's never too late. And there must be something magical about the 40s, because when I became widowed at 44, I started my first company at 46. So, and here we are. That was Besito's Beauty. And so there's magic in the 40s, peeps.
Yeah,
and then it just keeps getting better. So
it gets better in your 50s. It's fabulous.
All right. So we're moving into the next chapter here, which is Jessica's chapter, which one of the R's in surrender for me is resourceful. Okay. Because when you are coming back, when you are having to pick yourself up, go again, chances are you're coming back from tremendous loss of some sort. It could be financial loss. It could be emotional, spiritual loss. There's a loss of some sort. And instead of feeling like you have to have all of these pieces in order to move forward, be resourceful with the gifts that you have, the things that God has actually given you that sometimes you don't recognize as like true gifts, because they're just there. Maybe they've always been there, or they come so easy to you. You don't really recognize them for that. And so for this piece, Jessica was like, oh my gosh, girl, like your story ties into this like tremendously. And her chapter is called My Road to Peace. So Jessica, tell us about it a little bit.
Sure. So I'm still on my road to peace, but so the funny thing is that when I was a little girl, I would watch, like Turner Classic Movies, and just admire the beautiful aesthetics of the clothing that the women used to wear, and everything. And so I always wanted to emulate that when I was a little girl. And then fast forward, the foundational groundwork that I was exposed to as a young person kind of put me in situations that I didn't make really good decisions about. And so I became, like involved in things that had exposed me to trauma, abuse. And but the ultimate thing for me is like, I was assigned, like my parents, they gave me an option for what my life path would be. It would either be a nurse or be a teacher. So I at least got to choose that as a young person, not knowing who I was at that time. And so I went into teaching. I went into education, and I knew that I would go all the way with my education. I would go, I would get my bachelor's degree and my master's degree, and then kind of dabble with my PhD, which I did not finish yet. But I always knew that there was something else for me. I always liked to draw, and I always loved fashion, and I always, would be sewing and using my mother's sewing machine, and just making clothes and making just pillows. I mean, all kinds of different things. So I taught myself how to sew, and I taught myself like crocheting, and just all kinds of different things that made me feel good. It made me happy to be able to create things with my hands. And so that resourceful part, I was in the field of education for over 20 years, serving our young people. Just, and of course, throughout that journey, telling them, look, you have to embrace what it is that you love, embrace things, even if it makes you nervous to tell your parents that this is not what you want. You want something that defines who you are and not what your parents want. So that was always my battle cry when I was serving all of my students. And so the field of education is was everything that I knew until I became pregnant for my daughter. And it's so crazy because I'm also a single parent. My daughter, she was born with severe eczema, and it kind of created this stop to my life, everything that I knew up until that point. And I had to, I had my life set. I was traveling all the time, and just serving in my different educational roles. I was in higher ed for a while. My longest stint was in higher education, and so I thought everything was good. I was fine, and until I became a mom, and so I had to make some really difficult decisions. And I kind of did the opposite of what Julie was talking about. And everything that I knew, I owned a house, I owned everything. I had to sell it. I kind of lost everything to gain everything. I started my small business, and I started, just going back to who I was as a young person, and creating things with my hands. And I knew I loved the 50s vintage styles. So I told myself, you know what, let's start creating things. And as a result, I have been able to bring, my daughter home with me full time and work from home full time. And it's the best decision I could have ever made, even though it was the most terrifying. It still is. It's
love
still
that.
terrifying. Yeah.
I love that piece real quick. And because some of those decisions that we have to make, they're not easy. It's like at no point is any part of this like easy, but
Right.
it's so the right thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like for you to be able to make that decision to work from home, to be able to be present, and there and care for her, but it's sacrifice all around,
Right.
because then there's that struggle somewhere else. So
Yeah.
keep going. I just wanted to say, hey, we're all, we get it. If
Yeah.
anybody else gets it out there, let us know you get it.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. So it's been the best decision I could have ever made. So that whole time that I was in higher education, my daughter was sick. And so that job, that position, the director positions that I had and I held, they had a lot of responsibility to them, but I could not be present. And it was the final straw was, she was continuously being, getting sick. She would be at a daycare, and, they're cesspools for germs. So, it just became unsustainable. And it was excruciating because I couldn't be at work. I had to be home with her. I didn't have any other options. So since she's been home with me, she has not gotten sick. She has not been sick. So it is the most amazing thing. But we're it's hard, of course, to be a single parent. But I get to create, and she loves to help me. And so I just want, I think my message, the biggest message that I want to send out to everyone is making a decision for you that that it's a decision that you have to make, because it will continue to be present in your life. And it took me a really long time for me to completely decide that the best decision to make was to bring my daughter home, and let go of everything that I knew as a person. This absolutely everything that I knew as Jessica. So now it's I'm trying to get into that new mindset of, okay, this is what I need to do, and this is why this is happening. It's to keep my daughter home with me, and for me to be home with her. So this is why my life is the way that it is right now. So, and I'm okay with that. It's hard. I have to convince myself, a lot, but to be able to do what I love. And so as a result of that, I'm able to make my hair flowers, I make vintage inspired accessories, and get, accounts from Los Angeles and, all kinds of different places, to help women to feel good. And that's my thing. It's like, okay, I've had all these life experiences, the abuse, the trauma, all kinds of things. It's in the book. But the biggest message is to create and use what you know, be resourceful. And then how can I share it with the world? How can I share it with other women, for them to feel empowered?
Mhm.
And so this is my way of, giving what I'm supposed to give right now.
I love that. And you know what? I love that. And number one, like your flowers behind you are just absolutely gorgeous, right? Everybody needs to like go to her boutique and like check them out. But when we say resourcefulness, there was it was a couple years ago, and I actually worked with a group of widows from Africa who had to come together. They came together to try to figure out how they could start some sort of a business where they were, because they were all widowed and had kids and had to just come together. And so when I think of that resourcefulness, they actually were working to gather up enough money to purchase a cow, because if they could purchase a cow, there's so many different things that they could do. And it's like sometimes when you think you have it like really, really tough, God places those things in your path to remind you, just keep going, because somebody is still looking at you for guidance. And so for your baby girl to be able to be healthy, to be home with you, she's not worried about all the other stuff. She's enjoying this part of it. And these are those moments in her life that will mean the most, to her at some point. So, I love it. I love it. And we have some comments here. I see, Tish, I want to address one really quick. The prayer journal that you see behind me, those are actually going to be on the way to me. It took much longer because I thought I was going to order like 100. I ended up ordering like 500. And these are being made. Like, they're not just like through some production company. These are being made. And so it was like, whoa. That's going to take a little bit longer. So they're coming, and you will absolutely love it when you get it. So I just wanted to put that little drop in there. So let's move into Dawn's chapter. Hers is titled, I Am Not a Statistic. And let me share this with you guys real quick. When I mentioned to all of the comeback queens that here's what I'm doing, here's what I want it to look like, I had no idea what their stories were. Maybe little glimpses here and there, maybe, but when you put it in paper and you allow your feeling and your emotion and the detail to come out, when I'm reading these, when they started sending them to me, I'm like bawling, because in that moment I realized, wow, God, wow. Like, I just thought this was like some cool idea, but wow. And the inspiration that our readers are going to get through this book. So when I read Dawn's, because again, we didn't know each other real well. I just met her through my cousin's funeral. And her title is I Am Not a Statistic. Dawn, talk about it.
I titled it as that. I'm not a statistic because, going through all of the things that I went through, when somebody tells you enough times that, you're not worthy, or you are a statistic and you're not going to make it, you start to believe it. It's easier to believe the bad things than it is to believe the good things. And so I wanted to share my story because I know I'm not the only one. And I know there's lots of, boys and girls out there going through the same thing or went through the same thing. And the world turns around and tells them that they're a statistic and that they're not going to make it very far. So it was very important for me to share my story, because not only did I take that phrase that I was a statistic as an insult, I took it as firepower to push me to go beyond what I thought was possible, or what I thought others, or what others thought of me as possible. I wanted to prove everybody wrong. I mean, I was young, I was, you know, I had a chip on my shoulder, and I wanted to prove everybody wrong. So that was my, I guess, my motivating power in the beginning. Um, as I went through my 20s, kind of went through like a little self-destructive type of phase. And then I started to realize, holy shit, you are becoming a statistic, girl. You are strongly, quickly becoming exactly what the world said you would be. So I decided to go back to school. I decided to do all these things. I got pregnant again. All these, all these, um, all the world happening, you know, um, anything that could happen would happen and did happen. But I didn't allow that to stop me. And I was a single mom, and I mean, it's all in the book too, right? But yeah, like my baby's dad was in prison, all these things, right? I was by myself. But I still figured out a way to make it. I still went back to school, and being in nursing school itself, there's a lot of motivated men and women, and they're going through divorces, and there was funerals, and there was childbirth, and all these things that were happening, and these people were still sticking with it. And I was just like, wow, like, they're so motivated. You hear so many people having excuses. I can't go to school because of my kids, or I can't, exercise because of this, or there's always some kind of like excuse for something, and you can give yourself every excuse in the world. But I guess when life beats you up enough, and you realize that there's no other choice, you have to push, and you have to make it through it, and you can't do it by yourself. Like, you have to pray about it, and you need that support. And I wanted to bring this chapter out there because I know that there's other people that are either going through it or went through it already, and I want them to know that this isn't the end of the line. There's so much more out there. And rather than maybe letting things go and maybe self-destructing, or not believing in yourself, or just not going for it right when you feel it in your heart, and just you know um, just putting it on because you believe in yourself, and this is for you. Just listening to yourself, because that's one thing I think I've always come back to, is that you have to believe in your gut. When your gut tells you to do something, and it tells you that this life is not for you, there's another life for you, or this decision is for you, or whatever it is that life keeps nudging at you, you just have to do it. And you know what? And that's okay. It's okay despite the negative circumstances, besides the bad things that might have happened, or the bad things that are happening. You just have to keep pushing through it, because if you don't push through it, nobody's going to do it for you. Nobody's going to come and save you. Nobody's going to come and you know um, just give you like an aha, like, this is what you should be doing. No, like, God already puts it in your heart, and it's up to you to listen and to take action, and to make it happen. Because at the end of the day, we're all born alone, we all die alone, and you're responsible for your own self.
I
So,
love that. Yeah, we
I,
are all responsible for our own selves. And the thing is one of the things that I think is so cool is when you meet your tribe, when you meet the people that are moving in the
Mhm.
same direction as you. I mean, God picked us from around the country to come together because we have a common mission, we have a common story, and even though the experiences are different, he knew, I pull them together they can do mighty things. And so sometimes all someone needs is that person to be beside them to say, hey, I'm going this way too, we can do this together, come on. And if we can create that environment, even for the younger generation that does feel like they're trying to navigate this pathway into the unknown without support, without people that get it, because personal growth and believing in self and believing in dreams, we are like the oddball out. I swear we are. And yet, when we get in our own little world, man, it's like on fire. So, to have you share your story about not being a statistic and realizing that you could have continued down this path and nobody would have thought another thing about it. You would have just kind of proved it all right, but you didn't. You made a pivot, you made a turn, and you went against the grain, and you did it tired and hard, working and everything. But man, what an inspiration you are to many. So it's so great to have you a part of this.
Thank you. I'm honored to be a part of it. All of you bad queens.
Back at you.
Back at you. All right. And so Tish Ross, we have Tish's story. And Tish, I think what I have forgotten to say was the D for Dawn's chapter in the surrender framework. She is the D, which to me stands for discipline. Because in order to surrender to rise, you have to remain disciplined. And so when I read her chapter on the mind power and the mind control and the discipline that she had to pull forward and instill in herself to continue to push forward, that's where I was like, oh my gosh, God, I had this whole framework and let every chapter fit every piece of it. And it's just that reminder that those are the things that must come together for you to pick yourself back up and go again. And so with Tish's chapter, she is the R on the end of surrender, and that is ultimately rise. And her chapter titled Secret Within is a true representation of what it looks like to live a life of continual rising day in, day out. So Tish, why don't you tell us a little bit about your chapter?
Well, I named it The Secret Within because, there are things in my life that, you wake up one day and you think that you have it all together. I married the man that I thought I'd be married to for the rest of my life and grow old with. And, we had a boy and a girl and a dog in this house and all the things. And then all of a sudden, the next day, there's a message on the answer machine that changed the trajectory of our lives, of my life, of my children's, of my family, of my ex-husband. And one of the things that I believe is during the midst of everything, during the times that I felt like questioning God, our Father, asking why are these things happening? There's a scripture that came to mind after everything after God sort of led and guided me and got the children and I through what we went through. But the scripture it's James 1:2-4. It's trials and temptations. And it is, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking in anything. And I understand that now. In the midst of the trials, I did not. I wondered, why God? And how am I going to do this? The secret within was deep. And the reason I titled it that is because the Lord told me, don't tell your children what your ex has done. Don't do it. And it was in the very beginning because I was a wreck. My life was turned upside down. And the reason that he said to do that, to not tell the children, was because it would crush them. It would change who they are. And I felt that to my core. And so I know that in the midst of and during all of what happened, there were glimpses of God carrying me, and I could see it. I couldn't see it in the midst of the trials. It wasn't until maybe after certain, um, I'll give the car for example, that I believe I added to the chapter. But there was a time that um, my ex had our car, the only mode of transportation for the children and I became a single mom overnight. And I was a stay-at-home mom at the time, and so wasn't working. And the next thing I know, I'm looking out the window, and the only mode of transportation is being towed from the driveway. And I started thinking, what in the world? How am I going to get the children, then 3 and 7? How am I going to get them to school? And thank God the school was within walking distance. It was about a 10-minute walk, 10, 15-minute walk, but it was within walking distance. And so there we have it, there it is. The car was taken away, but our house was placed in within walking distance of where I needed to get my son to school. Thus then started the walking everywhere, no money, looking for a job, but how am I going to get a job without transportation? Started praying and looking for a job within walking distance, but I had no child care. So prior to this, my mom, a week before I became an overnight single mom, because of what my ex had done, my mom had just passed. It was a week before that. My mom had just passed. My dad told us that he didn't want to see us anymore, any of us, my siblings anymore, because we looked too much like our mother, and he was in pain and he was grieving, and I understood that, and I respected the way that he was grieving. But at the same time, I've lost my mother. Now I don't have my father, and then a family member, and then I became a single mom overnight, and now I have no car, and I need to figure out how I'm going to take care of these babies. And my prayer posture is on my knees, and my son being 7 and my daughter being almost 3, she wasn't even quite 3, but almost 3, would come and pray with me. And as a mother, you keep it together, and we were praying, and I was just casually talking to our Lord, and I said, I need you to help me. I need you to help me. I need to figure out how to provide for these children, even in the midst of the horror that went on, and in the midst of losing my mother, and in the midst of losing my father, and in the midst of losing a family member. I'm still trying to figure out, how am I going to save and provide for my children? That was my main focus. And so my prayer posture was, even if is it a taxi? Is it a bus? Is it a job within walking distance? And the Lord had carried me to a place that I had no idea. My children had actually gotten a ride to a church that I knew nothing about. I had just seen it. And I wanted to go to church there. So we went, and I don't remember my first visit there, but I remember sharing with someone. This man had asked me, how am I doing? And he was the first person that had ever asked, how was I doing? And I just started bawling. And I guess it was the Lord speaking for me, but I guess I told them what had happened. Again, didn't know anything about this church from Adam, and continued to be on my knees praying, and my son and my daughter praying. And one day I was going to pick up my son, and when I got to the school, I didn't have my daughter with me. Usually she's in tow in her stroller, and she wasn't with me. And my son said, Mommy, where's Caroline? And I said, oh, she's at the neighbors. Thank God for the neighbors. She's at the neighbors. And so he starts turning the direction that we are getting ready to walk in to go home. And I said, oh, no, we're not going that way. And he said, he was 7. And he said, huh? And I had these keys, and I said, we got a car. And the first thing that out of his mouth was, Mommy, God really does answer prayers. And that moment, those words were so, to me, it was just music ringing in my ear, because you know what? This wasn't about me. This wasn't about me. This was about the future of my children. This was about them learning the power of prayer. This was about them learning who God is and how God does answer prayers. This is about surrendering on our knees. We prayed, we surrendered, and we did rise, and we got a car. And was it, a brand new car? No, I think it was a green '88 Beretta. But to us, like I said, if he was running down the sidewalk to the car, and you would have thought that he was running to a Mercedes or a
Aw.
fancy car, but
That's
he's now a youth pastor. And so that changed the trajectory of his life. What happened to us was, yes, all of us, and sin affects people, and the choices and decisions that people make affect your family and people. But because the way that God guided me, thank God, praying on my knees, surrendering every day, help me, help us. My son's a youth pastor, and God wants me to tell everybody the secret now. It's not within anymore; it's out there, and I'm happy to share so that others will gain hope and that they will know that they're not alone. That's the purpose.
I love that. I love that. And I remember the first time that we really started talking about the different layers and to your story over these years. And that's why I just knew, like, for every single one of you, people can see themselves in you. For every single one of the comeback queens in this book, there is something for everyone. Somebody can see themselves in every single one of us. And when we talk about, because it is about the book, we are here to celebrate. This book is not about us. We are here to celebrate, and because it's an accomplishment. But from my perspective, I want to share a couple things for those that are tuning in and listening. Why do I keep putting across, purchase your book from showyourcrown.com. Showyourcrown.com is my website. You can click on the author's pictures. Are we on Amazon? Yes. Are we at Barnes & Noble? Yes. Are we at other bookstores and outlets? Yes. But when I brought these authors together, I said, I have a question for you. Okay, I have a question for you. I said, this is my third book. My first book went bestseller in 3 categories on Amazon. Woohoo! I got the bragging rights. I got this. I got that. Great. Didn't do a thing. Didn't bring anybody to me. I didn't know who was buying it. I didn't really make any money from it. It just was kind of like an investment that I made, but it was great. I learned from it, right? The second book that I did was a compilation, and we did hit international bestseller. But once again, who's buying the book? Is it making a difference? Are they even reading it? Who's getting paid through Amazon? Because I know I'm not getting paid. Like, it just was one of those things where it's like, these are great accomplishments. But I asked these women, I said, we have multiple outlets, because I have experience and I know a lot of people. We can go this route. We can go this route. We can do this. I can get you that. We can have our name in lights. We can go big, or we can actually go with the largest Christian book publisher in North America. They will spread our book to their outlets, but we can purchase our books and we can promote them and we can sell them, because the more that we do that, we are talking about the power of God in our lives. The reason that I went this route is because those of you that have ordered books from one of us, chances are they are signed and they were mailed to you, and there's a thank you with them, and it's appreciated. And so for that reason, we do want to say thank you. And for that reason, we do want to ask you, please share, please help us get the word out, because all God told me was bring people to me. I will take it from there. And this is just an avenue. This is just an outlet to be able to do that. So congratulations, ladies. I'm going to leave one last round for each of you to be able to share something to your reader, share whatever is laying on your heart. And Julie, will come back to you.
Okay. I think the message that I shared earlier it's a simple message, but it's very profound. And I think it's important to listen to the people that you love and admire most in your life. Because sometimes when God wants to get your attention, He's going to send these people strategically into your life to place certain messages on your heart. And oftentimes we go into autopilot and we ignore these messages. But I would encourage you to stay aware and listen to what people are saying to you. And you might see the connection in your life, which would then help you, move forward into your divine path. Again, my message is definitely it's never too late.
Yeah.
So,
Love that. Love that. And Jessica, what about you?
It's actually in the book. It's pretty simple too. Is just start over as many times as you need to get back to you, who you are, and why God put you here in the first place. And you will always come back to that answer. We may not have it figured out, and that's why you start over as many times as you need to then be shown.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that. And what about you, Dawn?
My message is that no matter what the world throws at you, you are worthy of so much more. You need to get yourself into the mindset. Why not you? Why can't you be super wealthy? Why can't you influence people? Why can't you be like this inspirational role model? Like, that's not just reserved for people who were brought or had those advantages. Everybody has that potential, but you have to believe in it yourself. No matter what the world makes you think you are, or you feel that you are, your self doubt. My message is that you need to manifest it, you need to believe in it, and you need to believe in yourself to be able to grow. Because I heard a message recently that um, there's so many people that are wealthy, right? There's a lot of people with bad intentions that are wealthy, but it's really important to get the wealth into people with good hearts and good intentions so that we can go and spread it and we can go and help the world grow. And that's really what it's for. It's to go out there and make the world a better place.
I love
So
Yay.
you have to believe that you're worthy of that, because the world will shut you down. You have to get beyond that.
Yes. Amen on that one for sure. And what about you, Tish?
I think that my message and some of it is in the book as well, but that we're all going to struggle. We are all going to struggle, and it is okay to struggle. This perception and the expectation that the world puts on us is one that is it can be ridiculous at times, the expectation, the representation, all the things. And so sometimes we feel like when we start to fail, which we all do, but for some reason we all feel like that we're not good enough, or we deserve what we're going through, and we don't ask for help. But like I said in the book, it is okay to be at the bottom of the barrel. It is okay to be at the bottom of the barrel. You are not alone. You can ask for help. There's no shame in that. Because once you take the steps to start climbing out of the bottom of the barrel, then becomes the rise. You're not alone.
I love that. Amen on that one. Thank you. And for me, my little nugget, because I didn't really get into my story too much today, and that's good. It's in the book. But mine, there was my complete moment of surrender, and the complete moment for me was after becoming widowed, and then after death, discovering his affair. Like, that was just my breaking point. Losing money, all the things that could be remade, but that peace that came 9 months after everything was truly my, like, God, I'm done. Like, I don't know what else you can take from me, because this ripped out my self-esteem and my self-worth and every bit of me believing that I could actually, like, be worth anything. I felt so stupid. Like, that was my breaking point. And I remember at that time wondering, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? Was it something that I did, like, all these questions, right? And Dawn mentioned, those questions. And God stopped me, and he actually said, stop. He said, stop wasting your precious time asking questions you know you will never receive answers to. Just like that. It was like, stop. Stop wasting your precious time asking questions you know you'll never receive answers to. And I would never get answers because at that time he was dead. I would not get answers. And so that will never leave me. And what I realized in that moment is instead of putting that time and energy into wondering all of these things about all of this stuff that's behind us, we can actually take all of that energy and put that time into what can we do to make things better for today and for all of our tomorrows. And I think that's just the common element that we've all done here. Every single one of us has poured our hearts onto these pages in words from experience, in a hope that it touches someone that is feeling a little bit low in their bank of hope right now. And if we can give you that, then it will hopefully encourage you to, number one, remember who you are. Number two, remember whose you are. And like my God said, and then boldly step forward and show your crown. And your crown is your experiences. Your crown is your heartache. Your crown is your grief. It is your loss. It is your mistakes. It's all of that. It's not just the things that are pretty and shiny. It's all the things that make you unique and all the things that make you you. And we need to boldly step forward and show that because somebody needs us. And that's what Surrender to Rise is all about. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight. This was great. We were honoring, these are 4 of the authors. Tonight we are missing Denise, Brittany, Melinda, and Rosanna. So we will do a part 2 and have them coming on next. But I want to thank you so much for sharing your time with us this evening. And if this touched your heart in any way, please share this. Please click share on the outlet that you're watching. People can catch the replay and they can come back and support one of the authors at showyourcrown.com. And thanks so much.
Thanks,
And
Elena. Thanks, everyone.
Thank y'all. Bye.
Bye, guys.